Hi everyone, welcome to part 2 of Book of Katherine's Let's Do Hardware. So we are installing a shelf today, and if you came over from part 2 when we did some patchwork on my wall here to just cover up the holes from the previous shelf I had, I wanted to remind you, just go ahead and make sure that your spackle, you can go ahead and see that video right here. Make sure your spackle is really sealed up tight, because your spackle can dry out and it can last a really long time. It can last forever, but only if you make sure it's really tight. You can do the tubes. They have like these toothpaste tubes. I don't like to use those because they dry up like all the time. It's just, I know they're really cheap, but it's your money and every penny counts. So I care about my money. We had to work really hard for it. It matters. It adds up. So I like to do the tubs because it lasts longer. So also, before you get ready to do your shelf, where you install your shelf, it's hard to clean around your shelves. So always go ahead and take a wall eraser. I've already done that, but take a wall eraser, and you can get generic ones. There is no difference. I've done generic and I've done brand. It doesn't matter. They all work exactly the same. Just wet the end of it, the corner of it, and just go ahead and scrub down your wall. It's very easy. It takes a very gentle touch, and it will erase just about anything. I've heard it works on clothes as well. So it's absolutely fantastic. And go ahead and clean down your wall, and that will prep your area. So I already have the patches on my wall, and we're ready to go on for shelving. So I'm going to show you first the kind of shelves that you can do, and then I'm going to show you the kind of tools that you'll need in order to do it. And then we'll get going for my shelf installation, because I am disabled. I have so much wrong with me, the amount of things and the amount of doctors I have. So if I can do it, you can do it too. Anyone can do it, and it's definitely a necessity for living life as an adult and living on your own. And you will absolutely love doing it once you have the empowerment of being able to do it. So let's get going. So there are several types of shelves that you can do. Like there's this kind of floating shelf. You can see that I just got this at the thrift store. I'm trying to buy everything I can at the thrift stores now because it's so much more inexpensive. As you can see, I got just a whole new shelf. And this is a floating shelf that you just attach here. I have learned over time, though, that the floating shelves, they tend to be more expensive, and they do over time just lilt down. They're not strong. They seem like they're really cool in the store. They seem really strong in the store, but you can almost put nothing on them, and they start to kind of sag over time unless you get them from IKEA. I haven't looked at anything made in America. I need to start doing that because I'm just getting into that. Everything made in America is made so much better. So much better. It's just the megaphone never ever advertises it, so I'm going to have to start looking into that. But you're going to have to pay a whole lot more to get a floating shelf that'll actually stay up, and then they don't look very good because they have a lip underneath it to actually keep it holding up, to keep it staying up. So they do have them out there, but they're mostly for show and for pretty, and so you can do it. It takes a little extra to install. But they're out there and they're beautiful, but don't expect to put very much on them at all unless you do like an IKEA shelf or something that's more local, made in America, something really strong. But the things at Home Depot and things like that, they're not going to hold anything. They may hold something for a while, like you may be able to put a little bit of awards on them, but they're going to sink over time. Just be aware of that. They're going to lilt, and that doesn't look good, in my opinion anyway. That doesn't look very good. And then there's two other kinds. This is a kind with brackets. This is this is one of the first types of shelves that I installed. And what this is you just buy this. You can go to Home Depot and buy this shelf separately. That's what I did, is I went to buy Home Depot. You can see it's made really well. This is what they used to do. This is bought a really long time ago. This is how well they used to be made. You can't get anything made this well nowadays. The quality's gone down so much. But they used to make them this well. And then what you do is you buy these brackets, and you buy them separately. You can still do that. You can go in there and buy brackets. They don't have these types of brackets, but you can buy whatever brackets in whatever style you want. And then what you do is you just simply attach them with a little drill, and I'm going to be showing you that today on how you can do that. And what you do is you just take a screw and you just screw them in on the bottom of the shelf. You just pop, you zoom those in, and then you take it with the holes here, and then you just pop, and then what you do is you install that. I'm so proud of myself. That's why I'm doing this video with you today. And then you just plop it right on the wall right there. So it's in total 8 screws, and this thing can hold, you would not believe how much this shelf can hold. This shelf can hold gangbusters. Oh my gosh, it can hold you would not believe how much it can hold. So in the long run, I think it looks better, and if you get brackets that you like. So you can do like designer brackets and stuff like that. You just kind of pick out the brackets that you like. You can also paint the brackets. You can buy, if you buy spray paint, you can get the spray paint that you enjoy. You can get it, make sure you get a primer first. If you have metal brackets, get a primer first for metal, and you spray paint it. You go outside and you lay newspaper down and you spray paint the primer onto the metal brackets, and then you let that dry, and then you spray whatever color that you like on those brackets, and then when it dries, then you can just pop it on like this. So if you want black, and they don't sell black anymore, then you can go in there and you can make it black and hang it on your shelves or whatever. So you can design what kind of shelves that you want, but they have white now. They're kind of in a white and cream, and they have, you know, all these different kinds of brackets, and they're beautiful, but you can buy ones online. You can get a whole series of things like that. So, but then there's the kind that I'm going to be doing today, and I'm about to show that right now. Okay, I'm doing a much more difficult one today. We're going to be doing a much more difficult one. I'm doing a much more difficult one, which means that if I can do it, you can do it too. I'm going to be doing this guy. This guy I found at a thrift store, and it's absolutely beautiful. So I got it for like $2, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's really, really unique, and it's just this. It's long, it's unique, it's detailed, it's real wood. It's absolutely stunning. I really, really love it. And we're going to be putting it right here above our shoe rack to get our closet started. And we used to have that little shelf here, as you saw in my previous video, and we're replacing it with a big shelf for more storage space. And then we're going to start putting drying racks above that. And so what makes that difficult, and the reason it's more difficult, is because when you have these hooks behind it, as you can see, these hooks back here where the two screws go, they're just two simple screws, but where they go, it's not as easy to measure. You now have to measure up here and over and down. It makes it, and then this edge is curved. You can see whoever made this is much more high quality, much better made. It was either handmade or is made in America. It's probably Amish made now that I think about it. Something like that. On the East Coast, they have some really beautifully made pieces. So I don't know where this is made, how well it's made, but it's just gorgeous. I love it. And it was a really unusual type of screw that actually fit in here. So anyway, those are the types of shelves that you can make, and I'm going to be showing you how to install this shelf. So now let's get into the actual tools that you will need in order to make this shelf. All right, so here are the things that you're going to need. You are going to need a wall eraser. You're going to need a hammer, whatever side that you need. Remember, I used the really, really small one in the other video. You're going to need a leveler. This is called a leveler. So this is a really fancy one that I got from IKEA, though I'm going to be trying to buy made in America now. So, but a leveler, this is a fancy one because you can go up with it. And a leveler is basically something where you lay it along something, a ruler or whatever, and you make sure when that bubble goes in the middle, it means that it's actually level. So you want your shelf to be level. You don't want your shelf to be laying on the wall like this. So this is a tool that we use to make sure that boom, up, is the shelf level? Now the shelf is level. And if this bubble ends up between these two lines, that means it's level. But if the bubble goes outside of one of these lines, it means it's not level. So as long as it's in between those two lines, you have a level line. So we need a leveler, so that's it. We have a leveler, we have a hammer. You're going to need a ruler, depending on the size of your shelf. If it's a small shelf, you can use a small ruler like this. If it's a long shelf, you're going to need a long ruler. Definitely, you're going to need a nice hard one. You're not going to want a tape ruler, not at all like that. You don't want a nice bendy, you don't want anything bendy for installing a shelf at all. You don't want anything like that. I just dropped the pencil. You're going to want a pencil that I just dropped down behind the bookshelf. And then you're going to want a drill. You can have a small handheld drill. I got a small handheld for when I got, just like I had to get a smaller hammer when I got sick, and the weaker I got a smaller drill to be able to move into the house. But I used to have this guy when I had my business. I did this to install everything. I really, really love this. But unfortunately, I can't find my drill bit for this guy, so I'm going to be using this guy. So you're going to be seeing me struggle just a bit. So, but I do love drills. I love drills so much. Oh, I love drills. I can't help it. I just think drills are amazing. I was probably a really good Rosie the Riveter. So, oh, they're so amazing. Drills fascinate me. So you should go into a CNC factory sometime. If you don't know about CNC machines, they are like, if you go on a factory floor, I had a friend that did that once and he took me on a tour, and they are like Star Tours. Like, it's not Star Tours, it's like going into Star Wars, and when they open up, the steam comes up. It's like seeing Han Solo come up. But the bits on those machines, I was like, oh my gosh, can I come work for your company? I was just like, those bits are just incredible. The things that humankind has done, it's incredible. The things that we've done, humanity has done. All right, so then you also are going to need screws. And depending on the size of your shelf, I talked about brackets before, and this is really, really important. If you have a small shelf, like that's going to barely hold anything, if it's going to only hold like a pound or two, if you're going to have one of those little itty bitty shelves, you're probably going to not need brackets. It depends on what you're going to hold on to. You can just do basic screws. For example, if I install a hook, like if I install like a little white hook, I just install screws. I don't do any brackets. What's a bracket? So a bracket is basically, like, this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be doing these 2 screws because it had 2 screw hooks, and I'll show you where those are. And then these are the brackets that I'm going to be using that go around them. Now you can buy this bracket. This is what a bracket looks like. And this is the actual screw. Now the reason I chose this bracket, what you do is you take the screw and you measure. Now they sell kits, before I go into that, they sell kits. Now my kit's all mixed up. But the kit will actually sell the bracket, like the screws come with the brackets that go with it. So you know, you don't have to measure it out and decide what bracket goes with what screw. You know, they actually come with it. It's like the screws that go with the brackets, they're right next to each other. You can buy these little cheap kits that go together. So you don't have to do the guesswork. But mine always get mixed up and I get all the whatever. So I always measure them out. And my screws get all, because I have so many. So it's just, that's the hardware life. For us on the hardware life. So this is what I do. We just did Annie at Insider Movies. Oh my gosh, I do so much. But that's a Western woman. We do it all, right? So I can't believe they say we have one passion in life. That's such BS. We do so many things in life. We're so multivariant or whatever. Is that a word? Okay, so this is a bracket. And what you do is you take the different brackets and then you put the screw. And do you see how that screw goes right? Now, if that screw was wider than that, it would be too big. Like, for example, if I had a bracket like this, if I had this bracket, do you see how that bracket's just way, way too wide? That comes out too far. I don't know if you can see that. It goes out to, you don't want it to come out too wide. You want it to be a really, really snug fit. And so this is a really, really, really snug, like it just barely fits around that. Do you see how those edges come right to the base of the screw? That's exactly what you want. You want them to come right to the edge. Those like ridges. You want those ridges to come right to where the screw is. And so you want it to be a super, super tight fit. Because what happens is this bracket's going to go into the wall, straight into the wall, and then this screw is going to go right into that hole. And all it does is it makes that screw, the screw expands this bracket, and it kind of like pushes out against the wall, and it makes it hold more pounds. It increases the poundage that this screw will hold. And that's why when it comes out of the wall, it leaves such a big hole. And you don't want to leave a bigger hole. But if you put in a screw that's too small for this bracket, it's going to be loose and it's just going to jiggle around and it's not going to hold any weight and it's going to slip out anyways. And you don't want to do that. Now, how do you figure out which is the right screw for your actual item? So, for example, I had this bracket, right? So I had this guy and you have these holes here. So what you would do is you would go into your screw kit and you would just slide through and you'd be like, does it fit? Oh, no, it doesn't go all the way through. Like this screw still has some sticking out. I don't know if you can see that. It doesn't go all the way through. And so you just keep going through until you find one that slides, until you get one that, like, you know, does it go all the way through? Does it have the right fit? I don't have good hands today. And I didn't do all the and that one goes all the way through. right? So that one goes flush. And so you know which one to use, and then you use that size. And so you know which one goes flush, and then you use that. Like when I was really, you see how these ones are black? That's because I was so finicky that I did the screws and then I painted them black afterwards. I was creative, can you tell? Yeah, I painted them black afterwards. I got a paint pen and I painted it black. So anyway, so yeah, so it's a different size screw for each thing. Like you can see that goes into a smaller, like that went into a board, so you want a smaller screw for that. It's so much fun deciding which screws go where. And so that's, but you want a bigger screw that goes into a wall because it's going to go into a wall. You don't want a short screw. You want a short screw if it's going to be going into this. Like if it's going to be going into this guy, it's not very thick, obviously, so you don't want a screw this size going through. Does that make sense? So that's why buying a screw kit like this is so smart, because then you have something for anything. And that is one thing to know. If you're going to be going into a board like this, don't use a bolster. You don't need a bracket when you're going into something like this. When you're going into boards like this, you don't need brackets. Brackets are for the walls. That's what, and they even have brackets for when you go into concrete and things like that. But you're not going to need brackets. They have fun brackets when you go into walls. They even have things called butterfly brackets, where you have this like thing where you go in and then you pop it out and it has this big butterfly wing, so that no matter what you do, it can take like 30 pounds. Like you can put like 30 pounds, you can hang a ton of clothing on it, and it has this butterfly wings in the back of the wall, and you can't do anything because it just, you put in this big tube and then it's like a chrysalis and you push it through. You have to drill a big hole, but you push it through and then you do this little tiny thing and you go pop and the wings go boom, and you kind of hear it pop in the back, and it sets forth these big wings on the other side of the wall, and then all of a sudden you can't get it out, and you'd have to do this weird funky thing with the tool in order to pop the wings back out but you really can't get it back through, if I remember correctly. That's it, it's in the wall, and then you have to like patch over it. Like that's it, it's in the wall. But the nice thing is that it already is flat on the wall. All it has is a tiny nail hole. So it will be in the wall forever. It will never come out. It will never ever come out. It will be this tiny nail hole and it will always stay there, right? But you just spackle over it. All right, so we have that all down. So now how did I decide on my nail? This one, because it was such an unusual thing, because it's actual wood and because it's handmade and everything like that, I had to actually use a really unusual nail because it wasn't from China. I had to keep going through all my screws, and I finally found a screw. It's a really unusual one. You know, screws are usually a wider head than this. This was actually a pretty thin head. I was really shocked. It had to be a really thin head. And what you have to do is you always have to check, and what it has to do is it has to go into this hole that you see here. You look at this, you see this? They will always have this on the back. Almost all shelving will have this kind of hold on the back. All shelves will have that. And what you want to do is you want to slide the nail head in, and then you got to slide it up. Don't assume it's all going to slide up. Like I put a ton of nail heads fit into that hole, but they didn't all slide up. Almost none of them slid up. They'd fit in the head. They'd all go in, but they wouldn't slide up. It took this small of a nail head to actually slide up. And that's when I knew for sure I was going to need a bracket. I was like, oh, I'm so going to need a bracket. So I'm going to have to use this little bracket, and then that's going to, and hopefully that'll, you know, hold up this lovely little shelf. Not that I was going to put a ton on it anyway, but brackets hold up an enormous amount of weight. You'd be shocked. So now, what do? Why does it make it a little bit more difficult to hang a shelf like this? Why does that make it more difficult? So let's go through what you have to do, and I'll show you that. Let me clean off this table for you. So I already did some of the measurements so that I could make this a little bit more easier for you. I'm going to show you everything that I did, but just because my back is so bad, I kind of had to pre-do it so that I didn't knock anything over when I actually did it in front of you. So let me clean everything off so that I do it, you know, danger-free for myself. So just one moment. Okay. So the very first thing that you want to do is find out where you want your shelf to be. And you really need to mark it out with pencil. Now, you don't have to worry about marking up the walls with pencil anymore because you know that you have your wall eraser. And you know that's going to go ahead and take care of it. So if you're worried about that, if you have like cloth walls or you have something like that, you can use a wax pencil. Or you can use tape. You can go ahead and stick tape on top of it. Painter's tape is a really great way to do it. Mark it off with painter's tape or use a partner to do it. Because I have a bigger shelf, I'm using this kind of I'm using a yardstick. So what I did first was I decided where I wanted to have my shelf. Now I know that I'm going to be having things on this shelf, and what I knew I was going to be having was shoes on it. So I had to stack the shoes first, always have it like the things around it. I knew I was going to be having a shoe on it, so I put a shoe on it first to make sure I knew what height I needed it at. I can't believe I'm lifting things. I'm getting to the end where I'm not going to be able to lift things, but my PT would be so proud, right? So I'm very, very excited. So I'm like, get this on camera. Get this on camera. First time since the second injection. All right, so I knew it was going to be about this height. I was like, okay, this is about the height that I want. That gives me clearance for the shoes. And so what I did was I was like, okay, so that's about where I want it. And then what I did was I held it here and I said, I know I want it there. Now, I didn't worry about leveling it or anything like that. I wanted to get about the height where I wanted it, right? And I took the furthest edge and I marked it off with pencil. I just marked off the furthest edge and then I took it down, all right? So that's the first thing that I did is I marked off where I wanted it. You don't have to worry about leveling it or anything like that. You just need to find out where it is that you want it on the wall. Where in the world is it that you want it on the wall? Where is the defining edge? Just get the height and get the width in, right? Find out where it is that you want it on the wall, right? Then you can clear your space. Then you have it somewhere defined and you have your edge. And what you want to do when you do that edge is you want to have a defining mark. If I had a flat edge here, if I had a defining edge that was, if this edge had been flat, I would have made sure to do the whole thing so that I knew where this ended and where this began, right? But I would have made sure that I had the whole thing right here. Now, in order to know the height and width of it, if that makes sense, so that I could start from the middle when I had it and I could measure. So instead, I have a curve right here. So what I did was I was like, okay, this is where I want to start. This is where I want my actual shelf. I know that. So here is the trick. Here is the big trick. This is exactly what you want to do. So what you want to do is you don't want to measure on the wall. What you want to do, and this is what everyone can do. Every man, woman, and child can do this. Oops, let me move this over. So what you do, here's the magic, is all you do is you take your shelf, and this is why mine is more difficult, is because I have a wonky shelf. Most shelves are so much more easier. They're just flat and they have this little hook right here in the middle of the shelf. I don't. I have it in this weird place. Most of these hooks will be right in the middle of the shelf. I don't. So I have already marked out this edge right here, this curve right here. So what I did was I measured right to where this, I was like, okay, this is where the nail is going to be. It's going to be right here. So I measure to right to where that point is, straight over. So I measure straight over, like, what is this axis going to be? And I'm like, what is the distance from this furthest edge on over? And I measured what that was going to be. And that is exactly, what is it? 5 1/2 plus 1/4. Oh, plus 1/8. 5 1/2 plus 1/8, right? And if you want to, you can mark it out on the ruler if you have to, but you just march it in one direction. So I just was like, how far is it from here to here? That's all you need to do. Just go that far. Okay, that's step one. And then what you do is you move on over to your wall. Now you pick up the leveler. And if you want to, you can take this or you can take your other shorter ruler, whatever you have more control over. And you just measure in that same amount from that. It doesn't matter because you already have that edge. You know where it is. And you just take that and you get to the edge. And then you level this out. You're like, what's the level? And you just tilt this ruler until it's leveled. Boom, it's leveled. And now I measure 5 and that measure in. Whoops, am I at that point? Is it leveled out? Yep, it's leveled out. And then I mark it. Boom. So now it's marked. So now I know it's leveled out exactly, and it's exactly how far that goes in. And now I go to the next part. Now I go to step 2. How far does it go down? So I measure this, and you can use a shorter ruler at this point if you want to. So I just take it from here. Now, here is the tricky part, and here's what people make mistakes on all the time. Do you measure from this big hole right here? Like, which hole are you going to measure from? Are you going to measure from the big hole that you first enter your hook into? Or do you enter where your it's going to end up? Remember, when your shelf actually slides into place, right? Oh, hold on. Yep, that's right. When you slide it into place, you go, okay, boom, you slide it into place. That's where it's going to end up. If you measure out to here, your whole entire shelf is going to be down further than it's supposed to be. So you slide it into here. So what you want to do is measure from the end point. So don't get tricked up and measure from here. Measure from this end point. So you measure from here to the middle point there. And so I'm going to measure that out because I know that's the end point. So I just measure from the end point right there on out. So that's just under 2 inches right there. I'm really bad with math, so I just remember which notch it is right there. And then I measure down, and then I also do a leveler on that. I'm like, okay, I want to level that. And that's what's great about this guy is that I have a leveler on the side, so I get to do that. I love this guy. I can level on the side. And there it is. And then you just go at that point. Oh, I already have the notch there. Oh, I already have it there. That's right. I already marked this out. Okay. All done. Forgot about that. All right. So it's already marked out. So that's all done. So what I did was I was basically mapping out what's on the back of this because I already had this. I had put this up. But what I have is a hole back there that I want to put the screw in so that when I slide this down, it sits exactly where I want it. So I don't know how to get the hole there. I need to get the screw in the wall in the right place. So I have to map it out. So the way I do that is I just measure. I measure here to there, and I get the screw in right where I want it. So I know where it's going to be. Now from there, it's super easy because I know it's just going to be a certain distance from here. I don't have to do the same thing on the other side at all. I don't have to do that at all. I've already done the hard part. From here, it's easy. From here, all I have to do is measure from this guy to this guy. And I've already done that. It's 24 inches exactly. And so what you do from there is you just measure out 24 inches exactly from that dot. 24 inches exactly. And the only difference is that now you have to level it. And boom. Dot's already there, and you know where to do the screw. And then you mark it out. Ta-da! And some people want to be super exact, but trust me, like the screw can be like, you can be a hair off. It doesn't matter because screws, when you knock it in and everything like that, they're all going to be a hair off. It doesn't matter. Screws kind of get like, they can be just a hair off. Screws can be a little bit messy. It doesn't matter. It'll go in. So you have to just be as precise as you can possibly be. Don't be 1/8 of an inch off. Like that's not a hair. I'm talking like a breath. You know, like a hair means literal hair. So don't worry about that. So some of us girls can be extremely, extremely, extremely precise. So you don't have to be that precise. So from there, what do you do from there? I'll get on to the next part. So that you can review that over and over again if you want to remap that out. So, but in essence, you're basically mapping out the back of that. You're mapping from the edge, you're outlining the edge here where you want it. Then you measure down, and then you put that on the wall. You level it down. Then you measure to the point where the screw is going to go in, and then you map that on the wall with a leveler. Then you measure from that point to where the other screw is, and you do that with a leveler. And then you have all 3 points on the wall, and then the only place you put screws in at all are on those 2 points on the wall. And then you are already halfway home. From there, it's super easy. This is when the fun part starts. This is when the fun begins. All right, let's get started. All right, I should, just to make the hardware guys feel better, I should at this moment mention stud finders. I do know about stud finders. There is such a thing as beams behind your walls. There are these 3x4s that exist behind your walls, 2x4s, and it does make your shelving much, much stronger if you install your fixtures into an actual beam and you drill all of these screws and things into an actual beam. So a lot of people like to actually use a stud finder, and you kind of click this and then you draw it along the wall, and then it'll go like beep, 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 or it'll show these dots when it actually hits a stud. I unfortunately am too much of a creative, and I have never done that. I've done that for my handicap bars. When it comes to my handicap bars, then we have looked for the stud. Otherwise, I've never done it because I am too much of a creative and I've cared too much about looks and aesthetics. I told you I am not a professional. So if you are interested in stud finders, I do own one. We do use it. I do use for handicap wear. So if you're interested in that, you need that sort of thing. It is your fixtures will be much stronger if you're going into a 3x4. There are plenty of YouTube videos on how to use a stud finder and all that fun stuff. And yes, I do have the rulers and all that kind of stuff, that actually laser pointers where you can measure and use a laser pointer. There's all that fun stuff. So I'm not a professional. This is just like a Guide 101. So here's some knowledge and here are some basics, and from here you can take off and learn even more. So have fun with it. So I had to learn off of YouTube video how to build my first wood fire, so on my wood stove. So we thought it was just a decorative piece and wasted thousands of dollars on heating our first year. So we just lost tons of, so YouTube is amazing. Thank you for YouTube. So all right, so and when it comes to education, when you finally know to look on it. So I should say all of that. That's amazing. Now, what is the next step when you actually have your pencils actually written? Now, if you want to, you can go ahead and erase those markers that you know that you won't be using. I don't, because I know that I'll just be covering it up. That's why you saw those pencil marks, you know, that were there. I know the wall eraser, when I took that down, then I erased it, right? I don't bother doing it in the middle, so I'm tired and I try to conserve my energy. So, but I will be going ahead, and what I do next is this. In order to make my drilling more easy, I take either a nail or I take the screw that I'm going to use in order to make this much, much easier. This is a little trick that I use. I believe my father taught it to me. I'm not sure who taught it to me. I think my father taught it to me. So I take a screw, and what I do is I go into each, these are the two areas that we marked off that the screws are going to be going, right? And what I do is I take my screw and I go right into it where it is before I do any kind of thing for the bracket or anything, and I tap. And I make a dent. And I do the same thing over here. Where are you? Are you there? Can you really be there? Hold on. Yeah, what the heck? It's actually saying it's there. That always freaks me out sometimes by sight, because of things, objects around it, it doesn't look like it's actually there. And the things around it will make it look. You know, by sight, to me, it looks like, I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm ill. It looks like it's all the way up here, but no, I just measured it out and did the leveler, and it's on whatever. Okay, so they're both dented into the wall. And what that does is when we get to actually drilling into the wall, it will guide the drill so much easier. When you go into a plain wall, the drill can go all wonky and it can just cause all this havoc. When you do that, just a little bit of denting, it's very easy to dent into a wall, because this drill, or not this drill, this screw has this little, I don't know if you can see that. Is that going to focus for you? Can you focus for, please? Please? Anyway, this has a very, very, very fine tip, a very sharp tip, actually. It kind of hurts when you touch it. So it has a very sharp tip. So you can go into the wall and create this lovely little dent right there. It just is like a concave thing. So when we actually drill into it, the drill will go whoo, right into the wall, which is exactly what we want. But the drill bit, and I'll show you why, drill bits don't have that. Drill bits are much more smooth. You see that? So drill bits can be sharp, but they're much more dull. And so when you first drill into the wall like this, it can go, it can, you know, it can kind of tilt or something like that. And then it creates a wide gaping hole, and then you don't have a nice, you know, strong hold into the wall. You want this nice shove into the wall. So the tighter the fit, then the stronger the hold. So you really, really want that to happen when it comes to a shelf, especially a shelf. So now how do you pick a drill bit to go into your drill? So, oh, I'm so excited. I haven't used my drill in so long. So we have our drill here, and you just unscrew the top, and then we're going to reshape this back to the drill bit. But I have to pick out a drill bit first. So now I'm all done with my leveler, so I'm going to clean that up and put that over to the side. So how do you pick a drill bit? Well, I'm going to have to, actually, no, I have to pick... Because if I was just using this, I'd pick the drill bit based on this cylinder, but I'm not. I'm actually using a bracket. So because of that, I have to actually go by the bracket. So what I do is I pick a drill bit just a little bit smaller, again, just a little bit smaller than this bracket. So I think that's just about right. That's just about right. The bracket's just a little bit wider. So I think that's perfect. So I will use this drill bit and set these aside. This is always great to have if you have a good solid kit. Even if you have like one of the smaller drills or whatever, it's always good to have a good drill kit with you. Any kind of set of drill bits, any kind of drill bit set will do. I even have like a titanium one or something my husband got me for Christmas. So he's the cook. I know that drives like generationals like crazy or whatever, but I don't know. Something happened. I don't know. He didn't, I don't know. I think Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts did something to us. We all got to do badges. We all got to do badges in both cooking and hardware and stuff like that. And you end up finding which one you like. You know what I mean? And school lets you do home ec and it lets you do shop, and you found out which one you loved, you know what I mean? And some of us just happen to love one more than the other. Like, he loves inventing cooking, and I do too. I'm actually a really, really good cook, but I just happen to love hardware. I really do. I really just enjoy it. And he can do hardware too. He loves it too. He gets all like warm and sweaty and he looks like Superman. But it just works out in life that I'm more available at home to do it. Like I always did. He always did things that worked in the office, and I always did things that, you know, I always had a storefront or something, or was always doing something with consulting. So I was just more available to do the home projects. It's just the way it worked out. All right, are we ready? Ah! All right, let's do it. So I'm going to clear this out so we don't drive everyone nuts. Okay. And so we need to get down. Let's see if I can hold it. There we go. There we go. All done. Was that hard? Was that hard? That wasn't so hard. That wasn't so hard. Yeah. Don't do this near electrical outlets. That's a big deal. Like, don't do it. You cannot do it near electrical sockets, like above and below electrical sockets and above and below light switches. No way. Absolutely no, you will drill into them and you will start shocking yourself for the rest of your life. Don't do anything like that. So, absolutely not. No, 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 no. So, God, maybe you guys should watch a safety video first. I don't know. I've never done anything like that, but, like, I'm not a professional. But I've been doing this my whole life and nothing ever. So, anyway. Now, I've seen all these videos. I've watched videos just like this, and I get frustrated because they don't do anything. They don't teach any of the stuff that I've watched plenty of videos, and they haven't said anything about it. So I'm not going to feel, I'm like, that's right. They don't say a thing. So, all right, here we go. Let's see if it fits. Is it going in? Nope. All right, so I'm going to have to go wider. This is my life. One up. I'm going to go a little bit further. go. Flush with the wall. All right, so that is, let me show you the drill bit I ended up using. It was way bigger, way bigger. So ixnay what I showed you before. It's been years since I've done this, so I apologize profusely. I apologize profusely. So it needs to be exact. So I apologize for that. So it has to be exact. Well, not exact, but it has to come out. But do you see how little it has to come out? Just barely the wings have to come out. Do you see that? Like just barely. I hope you can see that. Just barely. All right, good. So the big deal about this is that you really want to drill parallel. Oh gosh, you want to drill parallel. That is a really, really big deal. So I love my husband, but he drills like this. And I'm just like, honey, baby, you gotta drill. You gotta drill parallel. You gotta drill parallel. You gotta drill parallel. So, but he's so tall. He's so tall. And he's just like, oh yeah, this is fun. I'm like, gotta go parallel. So it's just such a, it is, but it's so hard to do, but you got to do it. It's one of those big things you really got to do. Now these are cheap freaking brackets. I hate them. I can't wait to do Made in America because I won't have cheap freaking brackets anymore. And they won't bend so easily. Dang it. All right. So now the brackets are in. That's it. Now they're two little holes. I will try and attempt to show you. So they are just like little itty bitty holes there. They just look like that. Just like that. They're just flush with the wall. They're just a little hole ready to accept, just ready to accept a drill, or not drill, a screw. And that's it. So very simple. I know it doesn't, I've been going on forever, so forgive me. So here we go. So let's go ahead and get started and let's do the drills. We're almost done though. We're really almost done. So, all right, so now what we do is we unscrew this, take that out, put it back, and now we take this. So this is just one of those bits where, and you put the side in that actually has the type of screw head that you need. And I have, I believe it's called Phillips, where Phillips is the kind that has, feeling really uneducated right now, that type of point, because it matches this type of head. There you go. So it'll go in right like that. Bing. And then we'll fit that right in there. So I'm going to put this away, off to the side, off to the side, off to the side. Let's do it. Oh, going in reverse. There we go. Put it in first. I always try to fit the screw in first, and then I try to get it parallel. I hate this because it's really long. I start slow. The slower you go, and then I speed up. There we go. All right, nice. And then I'll rewind it a little bit because it's going to have to actually fit in. Come out. There we go, because it's going to have to actually, the shelf's going to have to fit onto it. Excellent. So I always start slow because that's when it can really, really wobble. It can get out of control. So I always start slow. That gives me a lot of control actually fitting it in. So it goes slow. I can actually control it, keep it parallel, keep it parallel. And then once it's in and I know it's actually in the wall, then you can speed it up. But when you do it, you want to leave a little bit outside, just a little bit outside the wall, as you can see. I don't know if you can see here, but you want to leave a little bit of a lip outside the wall because it has to actually hook onto the back of the shelf. It has a, remember how I showed you that it slides? Remember how I said slide? I said it's going to slide up, the screw's going to slide up when it actually fits in. So what we want to do is we want to leave that lip out there for it actually to slide into place. So you don't want to screw it all the way into the wall. All right, so we're going to do the same thing on the other side, and then we're going to actually fit it on. All right, so here comes the moment of truth. When you put it on, sometimes when I get it on, I can't get it off. I pulled it out a little bit because it seemed like it has a pretty deep, like it goes in pretty far. The hook, the head goes in pretty far in these hooks. So I kind of pulled it out quite a bit to make sure it had a bit of a lip. So let's go ahead and see. So I only have a little bit of energy left. So this is our one shot. So I'm going to hold these two up and I'm going to slide in and we will find out. So I'm going to center this up. If this is really good to do with a partner, if you're at home and you have a bigger shelf. So I'm going to center these up and I'm just going to push them down. Guess where they are. And there it is. Ta-da! I have a shelf! I have a shelf. Now let's see if it's actually... Oh my gosh, and it's level. It's level, everyone. That is level. I would like you to see, everyone. Behold, it is level. Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Party! I did it leveled. I did it leveled. Thank you to my doctors. Thank you to my doctors. I did it leveled. I did a shelf leveled. I did a fully wooden shelf. I did a fully wooden shelf leveled. Thank you very much. And that is how you do it. Even if you're disabled. Booyah! Over and out. If you want to, go ahead and leave. Go ahead and leave a donation down below. Because this crazy girl ain't got any sponsors. I love you so much. Watch my previous video if you haven't already. I'm going to go spend time with my cats. I can't believe I just did this. I'm very, very happy. I'm very, very excited. I'm going to go call my friends. Mwah! I love you very, very much. I did it. I did it. I'm so happy I did it. I can't believe I did it. Look at that beautiful shelf. Look at it. It's so leveled. It's so leveled. It's so leveled. Oh, I'm not supposed to do that. All right.